will help you awaken the best version of you. Empower like Cleopatra. Empower like Cleopatra.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, my royals. Welcome to Empower Life with Cleopatra, the show where we just don't report the news, we investigate it, we ask difficult questions, we amplify forgotten voices, and above all, remember that every human has value because God created us all in his image and likeness. Now, I hope you're all doing well wherever you're watching from around the world. Take a look at this.
I am horrified at news reports and video footage showing African migrants in Libya reportedly being sold as slaves. I abhor these appalling acts and call upon all competent authorities to investigate these activities without delay and to bring the perpetrators to justice. Thank you very much.
Migrants, refugees, and asylum seekers in Libya are subjected to ruthless and systematic human rights violations and abuses, which include killings, torture, sexual violence, and trafficking. In detention, migrants are routinely subjected to horrific violations and abuses, including slavery, torture, ill treatment, forced labor, forced prostitution, and other forms of sexual violence, ransom, and extortion.
Men used humiliating methods with women, making them, for example, take their clothes off in front of other men and women migrants before raping them publicly, torturing them and beating them. One woman recounted that she was raped twice in the hangar before her own daughters and other migrants. And anyone that tried to help her was severely beaten.
There are no words to describe the never-ending nightmare that these people are forced into, only to feed the mounting greed of traffickers and those in power profiting from a system of exploitation. We urge the international community, including the European Union, to establish a moratorium on interceptions and returns to Libya until adequate human rights safeguards are ensured.
So that video was condemning the current acts happening in Libya by the United Nations Secretary General and also one of the officials from the Human Rights Organization. Now, why did they make those comments? Because people whose freedom have been stolen, people who left home believing that they were traveling towards a better future, found themselves trapped in a nightmare. Some were kidnapped, some were tortured, some were forced into labor, some were sexually abused, some were extorted for ransom, and some were bought and sold between criminal groups as though their lives had no value. Every one of them had a name, a family, a dream, a future they hoped to build. Instead, they became part of one of the world's most profitable criminal industries.
You come to our country to steal again in your country. Why?
These men are migrants with dreams of being smuggled to Europe by sea.
We are going inside. Have a seat near, please. Have a seat near, please.
They come in their thousands from Niger, Mali, Nigeria, Ghana. It's hard to believe that these are the lucky ones, rescued from warehouses like the one in which we witnessed the auction. They're sold if those warehouses become overcrowded or if they run out of money to pay their smugglers. Of these rescued men, so many here say they were held against their will.
It was an Arab man that is going to hit my eyes. You see what I'm passing through. I can't ever tell. I don't just know. For those Arab people, we cannot tell. We just pray to God to save us, we Nigerians, for another country from the hands of the Libyans. At least they should try their best. I've spent 2 years plus. But for me staying there now, it's close to 7 months. It was because of the sweat. On my body I've got white. We have not taken our bath since 2 months. Just to bath, even to brush. If some people should open their body, they fix pipe inside their private part, pipe to piss. Tell some people to open their body. They should put their body for you. You will see that these people have finished us. Is it bullet wound? Is it the gunshot? Even when we are going to eat, They beat us. We are going in. We have over 150 Nigerians inside the place. And in my present night, 3 Nigerians were shot dead and thrown into a river in a place called Suleiman.
Can you imagine if it was Americans being sold as slaves in Libya? Can you imagine if Europeans were being sold as slaves in Libya?
So, how did we get here? To answer that question, we have to go back to 2011. Following the collapse of Muammar Gaddafi's government, Libya entered a prolonged period of political instability. Rival governments, competing militias, and armed groups emerged across different parts of the country. As state institutions weakened, organized criminal networks exploited the growing security vacuum. History has shown us something important. When the rule of law weakens, crime finds opportunity. When borders become difficult to control, seekers move in. And when desperate people are searching for hope, criminals see profit. For thousands of migrants traveling through Libya, that combination proved catastrophic. By 2016, the United Nations was already warning that migrants in Libya were facing torture, forced labor, sexual violence, arbitrary detention, and other serious abuses. Then came 2017, the year the world could no longer pretend it didn't know. CNN released undercover footage appearing to show African migrants being auctioned for labor in Libya. That video will be played later, so please watch out. The images shocked the world. United Nations condemned the reported slave auctions. The African Union demanded urgent action. Governments promised investigations. But while the cameras captured a shocking moment, investigators soon discovered that the auctions were only one visible part of a much larger criminal system. Behind the headlines lay an organized network of trafficking, extortion, forced labor, detention, sexual violence, and ransom that had already trapped thousands of vulnerable people. And according to more recent reporting by the United Nations, many of those abuses have continued long after the world's attention moved elsewhere. Tonight, we are going beyond the headlines. We are following the evidence. We are listening to survivors. We are asking one of the most uncomfortable questions of all. How did human beings become a business? To understand why Libya became one of the most dangerous migration routes, we first need to understand why so many people were willing to risk everything to get there. Very few people wake up one morning and decide to cross the Sahara Desert simply because they feel adventurous. Most leave because they believe they have no better option. Some are fleeing armed conflict, some are escaping persecution, some are running from political instability, others are simply trying to provide food for their families. Many dream of reaching Europe. They believe that one opportunity abroad could change the lives of everyone they love. And then someone appears with a promise. I can get you there. I know the route. I'll help you find work. To someone living without hope, those words can sound like a lifeline. But for countless migrants, they became the beginning of a nightmare. Take a look at this.
The Sahara in North Africa. Much is smuggled here. Food, cigarettes, fuel, but also cocaine, gold, weapons, and people.
People are dying out there. Bad water, bad food, bad economy.
The most important migration route from West Africa to Europe runs through here. Every year, tens of thousands of migrants cross the desert from Niger via Libya to the Mediterranean.
All my hope to this trip is to go and make a change to my own family.
The EU is growing ever more concerned with this migration pathway. That's why this region has increasingly become the focus of European migration policy. The desert zone is highly inaccessible, geographically isolated, without much government presence. Here, bandits, militias, and human traffickers are in charge.
That day I arrived, that night of that day, 3 people died. These people are so heartless. They don't even do normal burial for someone that died. They will use one blanket to wrap the person and go throw them in the desert.
The EU and its member states are channeling billions of euros into this region for a battle against migrants on the backs of pickup trucks in the midst of the deadliest journey of their lives. Most of the migrants come from sub-Saharan Africa. To reach Europe from Libya or Tunisia, they must first cross the desert. The Niger-Libya corridor is the primary route through this barren landscape. One city is specifically relevant for these aims: Agadez, where people gather from all over West Africa to cross the Sahara. In Agadez, migrants wait in crowded compounds until the smugglers have enough people for a trip through the Sahara. A large part of them come from neighboring Nigeria. The nation is rich in oil, but poor in opportunities. In global corruption rankings, Nigeria has languished in the bottom third for years. Many young, well-educated people are quitting their homeland due to a lack of prospects.
I swear, all the resources, we still have a problem.
Christian and David have been waiting here for a week.
Where I see this thing, I can't take it anymore. I just to leave Nigeria is no option.
Migrants head to Europe via various routes, but primarily through the central Mediterranean, from Tunisia and Libya to Italy. The European Border and Coast Guard agency Frontex says that in 2025, around a third of the 178,000 irregular border crossings took place on this pathway.
For many migrants, Libya was never meant to be the final destination. It was supposed to be a transit country, a stepping stone towards Europe. But before they even reached the Mediterranean, many were intercepted by criminal networks. The journey across the Sahara is one of the harshest migration routes on earth. Days, sometimes weeks, traveling on overcrowded pickup trucks, temperatures exceeding 40 degrees Celsius, very little water, little food, no medical care, no guarantee of survival. The International Organization for Migration has documented numerous cases of migrants dying from dehydration, starvation, and abandonment even before they reach Libya. Think about that for a moment. Some people never even made it to the country where their suffering will continue, because the desert claimed their lives first. Those who survived often believed the worst was behind them. In reality, for many, it had only just begun. Once inside Libya, everything changed. The man who claims to be your guide could suddenly become your captor. Your passport disappears, your phone is taken away, you're locked inside a warehouse, an abandoned building, or a farm, a makeshift prison, or an unofficial detention center. Then comes the order: call your family, tell them to send money. If the money doesn't come, the violence begins. Take a look at this.
I was sold. On my way coming, I was sold. From a week, they will start beating so that your money will come quickly. So I was there for 8 months before I could pay my money, and I went out. You look at most of the people here, if you check their body, you see the mark, they're beaten. With electric, even your boot, they took something like a sharp object. You understand? Most of them lost their life there. Many are dying every day. No phone call. Their family will be thinking that person is dead. He has lost it for her life. Know that he's just in one place suffering. Going back home now, I'm totally frustrated. I don't know where to start from. Because I spent my life savings leaving the country. You understand? Going back home now. A lot of my friends, we start together. Most of them are in Europe now. In the business they are doing, most of them have grown up. So I go back and start back from square one. It's very painful. It's very painful. Even when they gave us food here, water, that's not the main problem to me. The main problem to me is I'm going to start. Because I've lost a lot. My mother have lost a lot too. So it's very difficult.
My royals, I want you to notice something. That wasn't a politician. That wasn't a journalist. That wasn't my opinion. That was someone who lived through it. Someone who survived. Someone who escaped to tell the world what happened. And tragically, their story is far from unique. Thousands of survivors have described remarkably similar experiences, different nationalities, different journeys, but the same pattern. The first thing traffickers steal isn't money. It isn't even freedom. It is hope. Because once hope disappears, resistance becomes much harder. According to the International Organization for Migration, many survivors described being moved repeatedly from one location to another without knowing where they were going. Some were held in warehouses, others in farms, some in unfinished buildings, others in unofficial detention centers. Many never saw daylight for days, sometimes weeks. Imagine living without knowing whether it's morning or night. No windows, no phones, no idea where you are. No one knows you're alive. For your family back home, you simply just disappeared. Now, here's one of the most disturbing discoveries I made while researching this investigation. For many trafficking networks, transporting migrants isn't where the biggest profits are made. The real money comes from exploitation. Yeah, now, here's how it works. A migrant pays a smuggler to begin the journey. Halfway through, they are kidnapped. Their family receives a phone call. The demand is simple. Send money if you ever want to see them again. The family borrows money from relatives, sells possessions, empties savings, and eventually they manage to pay. They believe the ordeal is over. But instead of being released, the victim is sold to another criminal group. The cycle starts again. Another ransom, another beating, another demand, another payment. One human being can generate profit over and over and over again. The person is no longer a human being to these traffickers. They become a business, they become a commodity, an investment. And that is why the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime describes human trafficking as one of the world's most profitable forms of organized crime. Not because the victims are wealthy, but because their suffering can be monetized repeatedly. My royals, pause for a moment and ask yourself this. If this happens to your son, your daughter, your brother, or your best friend, would you still see this just as another immigration story? Or would you call it what it really is? One of the greatest human rights failures of our time. Because that's what it is. Now let's turn to the moment that brought this crisis into the world's living room. For years, survivors have been telling horrifying stories. Humanitarian organizations had been documenting abuse. The United Nations has been issuing warnings. But much of the world wasn't paying attention. Then, in November 2017, everything changed. CNN released undercover footage from Libya that appeared to show African men being auctioned as laborers. The bidding lasted only seconds. Human beings offered for sale as though they were livestock. The footage shocked millions. People around the world watched in disbelief. Will this really be happening in the 21st century? The answer from the United Nations was clear. These reported slave auctions were condemned as a grave violation of human rights. The African Union demanded urgent investigations. Governments across Africa expressed outrage. For a brief moment, the world stopped and paid attention. Take a look at this.
We've arrived in Tripoli and we're starting to get a little bit of a better sense of how this all works. Our contacts are telling us that essentially there are auctions 1 to 2 times a month and that there is one happening within the next few hours. So we're going to try and head out of town and see if we can at least get some sort of sense of how it works, where it is, and how this all plays out. We've been waiting the last few hours just to receive word as to whether the auction has started. We now understand that there are 2 separate auctions going on in this town that we're in and in a town only 20-30 minutes away. And it looks like we will be able to go in and witness how this all happens. I'm speechless. I don't know how to put this into words. There were human beings auctioning off other human beings. And even though there didn't appear to be any weapons that we can see, these people were brought out from that room one by one, and the whole environment, the whole feel was one of duress. The utter casualness of that. I mean, when we walked in, there was clearly a lot of nervousness, a lot of suspicion, and people started covering their heads, but they still kept going, and they were referring to these human beings that they were selling as merchandise.
My royals, I have watched that footage several times, and every single time I ask myself the same question. How many people suffered before a camera finally captured what is happening? Because the truth is, the footage didn't reveal the beginning of the crisis. It revealed a crisis that's already been unfolding for years. The camera exposed what survivors had been desperately trying to tell the world, but the auctions were only one part of a much bigger system. International investigations describe a criminal economy where people were trafficked, kidnapped, held for ransom, forced into labor, sexually exploited, moved between criminal groups, and deprived of even the most basic human dignity. Others described being exchanged between traffickers. Many said that they were treated as though they were no longer human. This is why international organizations describe these abuses as slavery-like practices, not because history repeated itself in exactly the same way, but because the result was chillingly familiar. Human beings stripped of their freedom, reduced to commodities, and valued only for the profit they could generate. Now, let me ask you another question. Why would anyone do something so evil? The answer is painfully simple: money. Human trafficking isn't driven by hatred alone. It is driven by profit. According to the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, trafficking is one of the most profitable forms of organized crime in the world. Every victim represents a potential income: recruitment fees, transportation fees, ransom payments, forced labor, sexual exploitation, repeated extortion. One person can be exploited again and again and again. That's why trafficking networks continue to grow, because somewhere, someone is making enormous amounts of money from another person's suffering. So think about this. If trafficking stopped being profitable tomorrow, many criminal networks would disappear. Organized crime follows money, and that's why dismantling trafficking requires more than rescuing victims. It means identifying those who finance these networks, those who protect them, those who enable them, and bring them to justice. Because every payment strengthens the system. Every ransom encourages another kidnapping. Every successful trafficking operation funds the next one. So, we've heard from survivors. We've examined evidence. We've seen what international investigators have documented. Now, we need to answer another important question. Who is actually responsible for these crimes? The answer is more complex than many headlines suggest. When people hear the word trafficker, they often imagine one violent criminal. The reality is far more organized. Think of it as a network. One group recruits migrants. Another transports them across the desert. Another controls the checkpoints. Another runs detention sites. Another collects ransom payments. Another arranges dangerous sea crossings. Each group performs a different role. Each group takes a share of the money. Together, they form a criminal economy built on human suffering. This is why the United Nations describes trafficking in Libya as a network involving organized criminal groups, armed actors, and others operating in an environment where weak governance has allowed exploitation to flourish. Now let's address something else. You'll often hear people say Black Africans are being sold by Arabs. The documented evidence paints a more complex picture than that. The overwhelming majority of victims are migrants from sub-Saharan Africa. However, investigations by the United Nations and other international bodies have found that perpetrators include organized criminal groups, Libyan traffickers, some armed groups, smugglers who become traffickers, and in certain documented cases, individuals linked to state institutions. There have also been foreign nationals involved in transnational trafficking networks. So why does this distinction matter? Because if we oversimplify the problem, we make it harder to solve. Crime has no ethnicity, greed has no religion, cruelty has no nationality. Where there is instability, organized crime finds opportunity. Where there is profit, human traffickers follow. Now let's turn our attention to the African Union. This is a question many Africans have been asking for years. If so many African migrants have suffered abuse while traveling through Libya, what has Africa done? The truth deserves a balanced answer. Following the global outrage in 2017, the African Union partnered with the United Nations and the International Organization for Migration to establish a joint task force. Its goal was to help stranded migrants return home safely and voluntarily. Since then, thousands have been assisted through voluntary humanitarian return programs coordinated by the IOM. These efforts have saved lives. But many experts argue that rescue alone cannot solve the problem. Helping people return home is essential. Stopping traffickers is even harder because trafficking networks do not respect borders. They operate across countries. They operate across deserts, coastlines, continents. Their business is human misery, and dismantling that business requires international cooperation far beyond the borders of Libya. Take a look at this. Now, let's widen the lens, because this isn't only Libya's story. It is also part of a much bigger conversation about migration. Every year, thousands of people attempt to cross the Mediterranean Sea in overcrowded inflatable boats and unsafe wooden vessels. Many never make it. According to international organizations, the Mediterranean remains one of the world's deadliest migration routes. European governments have responded in different ways. Some have strengthened border security. Some have worked with Libyan authorities to intercept boats before they leave North African shores. Supporters argue these measures prevent dangerous sea crossings and save lives. Critics, however, including Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch, argue that intercepting migrants and returning them to Libya places many people back into environments where international organizations have documented arbitrary detention, trafficking, and serious human rights issues. This remains one of the most controversial debates in international migration policy. People hold different political views, as you would expect, but regardless of where anyone stands, some principles should never be negotiable. No human being should be tortured. No human being should be trafficked. No human being should be treated like property. Human dignity is not a political opinion. It's a human right. My royals, I'd like you to forget politics for just a moment, right? Let's forget about borders and forget about immigration debates. Forget about everything you've heard on television or social media. Instead, think about one family. Think about a young woman, 23 years old. She tells her mother, I'll find work. I'll send money home. Everything will be all right. Her family borrowed money to help pay for the journey. Everyone hugs goodbye. They believe they are investing in a better future. Weeks later, the phone rings, but it isn't really her calling. Someone else is holding the phone, and the man says, if you ever want to see your daughter again, send money. Then her family hear her screaming, not because she's speaking, but because she's being beaten, she's been sexually abused. Imagine being that mother. Imagine hearing your child cry for help, knowing there's nothing you can do. That's the cruelty of trafficking. It doesn't destroy only the victim. It destroys and devastates entire families. It destroys parents, children, brothers, sisters, communities. That trauma doesn't end when captivity ends. It often lives on for years. Now, we come to one of the darkest chapters of tonight's investigation, the detention centers. Many investigations by the United Nations, Médecins Sans Frontières, Amnesty International, and Human Rights Watch have documented severe abuses in detention facilities across Libya. Some facilities have been operated by the state authorities. Others have been controlled by armed groups and criminal networks, as we've mentioned earlier. Conditions varied from place to place, but survivor testimonies describe disturbing similarities. extreme overcrowding, poor sanitation, insufficient food, limited medical care, fear, constant uncertainty. Many survivors describe sleeping shoulder to shoulder on concrete floors. Others speak of surviving on tiny portions of food. Some describe drinking contaminated water simply because there was no alternative. Doctors working with Médecins Sans Frontières have repeatedly warned that overcrowding and poor hygiene create ideal conditions for disease, malnutrition, and profound psychological trauma. But statistics can sometimes distance us from reality. So let's remember something important. Every statistic represents a human being. Someone with a name, someone with a family, someone whose life was interrupted by unimaginable suffering. One survivor told humanitarian workers he left home with one dream: to earn enough money to build a house for his parents. Instead, he spent months in captivity. When he finally returned home, he had no savings, no job, memories that still haunt him. You saw one of the videos I played earlier where the young man was narrating his ordeal and he was literally crying. Another survivor described watching fellow detainees become so weak from hunger and illness they could barely stand. Others spoke about witnessing brutal beatings carried out simply to terrify everyone else. I will show you a video in a minute. It gets worse. Women described sexual violence that no one should ever experience. These are not isolated stories. They appear repeatedly across investigations carried out by different humanitarian organizations over many years. And that consistency makes the evidence impossible to ignore.
So, I didn't know that Sova is risky. That I can't just walk anyhow. So that's why I was jumped by those two boys. They took me to a very big house. When I'm there, they said I should take off my clothes. I started shouting, crying, begging. But there's nobody that can rescue me. They forced me into it. It was very painful, but I had no choice. I started crying.
Many female migrants in Libya report sexual violence, rape, and sexual exploitation by smugglers, armed groups, or guards.
It happened every day, by day. There can come like 25 to 30 clients a day. There are many girls. They will be choosing. It's 250 dinars. They make a lot of money. A lot. Because they do this to many girls, not only me, many girls. I don't know where they are kidnapping that many girls.
Most of the migrants detained in Libya are held in unofficial camps like these, controlled by militias or smugglers. The Tariq al-Sika camp is notorious for its inhumane conditions.
They treat us like nothing. I don't have anything to say because I'm black. So they treat us the way they want.
A United Nations fact-finding mission documented substantial evidence of the systematic torture of detainees. Just as in the unofficial camps, there are also reports of rapes and ransom demands here. Despite documented human rights violations, the EU supports Libyan migration and security authorities with money, training, and equipment.
So how do you rebuild your life after something like that? How do you learn to trust people again? How do you silence memories that return every night? For many survivors, the hardest part doesn't end when they escape. It begins. Trauma doesn't disappear the day someone regains their freedom. Many survivors continue to struggle with depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorders, nightmares, panic attacks, survivor's guilt. Some are afraid to sleep. Others are afraid to speak. Many return home carrying invisible wounds that no one else can see. Imagine arriving back in your village, not with the success everyone expected, but with nothing. No money, no job, no possessions, only memories. Bitter, nasty, traumatic memories. Many survivors describe feeling ashamed, not because they did anything wrong, but because they believed they had failed the people they loved. That's another cruel consequences of trafficking. It steals more than freedom. It steals confidence. It steals identity. It steals hope. And that's why organizations such as the IOM and other humanitarian agencies do far more than provide emergency food and shelter. They provide counseling, medical treatment, psychological support, legal assistance, family reunification, and skills training. because escaping captivity is only the first step. Healing takes much longer. Now, for those of you who are squeamish or emotional, please don't watch the next video. All right? Just look away or walk away. You can come back in another few minutes. Take a look at this. One question often comes up whenever people discuss trafficking. Why didn't they just escape? On the surface, it seems like a reasonable question, doesn't it? But reality is rarely that simple. Many victims are guarded around the clock. Some have no idea where they are. Some don't speak Arabic. Some are injured. Some are too weak to run. You saw the video earlier about the one that was shot in the legs, not just him. A lot of them actually suffered gunshot wounds. Others have been told that if they escape, their families back home will pay the price. Traffickers don't always rely on chains. They rely on fear. Fear can imprison a person just as effectively as locked doors, sometimes even more. Because an invisible prison can follow someone long after they've escaped. Now, Marius, if this investigation has opened your eyes, please don't keep it to yourself. Click on the like button. Share this program with your family, your friends, your church, your community groups. Because awareness saves lives. Please subscribe and turn on your notifications. From time to time, we investigate important issues like this, not because we're trying to spread any fear, but we're trying to spread truth. Please share your thoughts respectfully in the comments, right? And let's learn from one another. Now, we come to perhaps the most important question of the evening. After years of investigations, UN reports, international outrage, documentaries, sanctions, and promises of reform, has anything actually changed? The answer, the honest answer, yes and no. There has been progress. The international organization has rescued and assisted thousands of stranded migrants. Yeah, voluntary humanitarian return programs have reunited many families. Journalists have exposed abuses that would otherwise have remained hidden. Humanitarian workers continue risking their own safety to care for survivors. The United Nations has documented violations and called for accountability. Some individuals linked to serious abuses have faced international sanctions. These are important achievements. Lives have been saved, families have been reunited, but the deeper problem remains. Weak institutions, corruption, armed groups, poverty, dangerous migration routes, political instability. Even the European Union and the UAE are involved in all this. But that's another show altogether. Take a look at this.
Footage of a human auction emerged from Tobruk. This has been documented, filmed and reported for years.
For this reason, today we've been vocal to document the crimes that are being committed against refugees, migrants and asylum seekers across Libya, which is being done not only by the militias, the human traffickers, but by state apparatus, government officials and its institutions that are capitalizing and weaponizing the issue of migration.
As a system designed to trap people, extract labor from them, and disappear them from any official record. Refugees stopped at sea are returned to Libya under EU-backed protocols and placed directly back into the trafficking system.
You've got all of them who have understood that for them to have access to Europe, they need to use migration, because migration is the word they're hiding behind to funnel their resources, to exchange and to have access to legitimacy, to have access to weapons, to have access to to natural resources that can be smuggled out of the country in the name of migration management.
One of the key routes that Sudanese refugees employ to flee the RSF genocide is being used in the other direction to smuggle weapons.
Europe, under this migration management, they are using Libya to make it as a route where they are supplying weapons, not only to Sudan, but to sub-Saharan regions, where you've got a large number of terrorists today. Where do they get these weapons? They blame it on the time of Gaddafi. No, that is completely untrue, and Europe needs to be held accountable in this regard, as well as the United Arab Emirates, because the same way as you said, refugees are using to escape by the skin of their teeth. It is being used to smuggle weapons that terrorizes those who have remained behind.
Mariels, as long as these conditions exist, traffickers will continue looking for vulnerable people to exploit, because trafficking doesn't grow in peace. It grows where hope is scarce and accountability is weaker still. Now let's talk about something that doesn't receive enough attention: the role of ordinary people. Sometimes we assume only governments, presidents, and international organizations can change a crisis like this. History tells you a different story, though. Real change often begins when ordinary people refuse to look away. Journalists who risk their lives to expose the truth, doctors who treat survivors, aid workers who enter dangerous places to save strangers, lawyers who fight for justice, churches that support vulnerable families, community leaders who educate young people about dangers of trafficking. Shows like this, like I'm doing right now, that shine a light on such atrocities, and survivors who find courage to tell the world what happened to them. Every one of us is sending the same message. This life matters, because every life matters. Now we must talk about those who often are the most vulnerable. Children. Take a look at this.
These children's parents were members of ISIL in Sirte, one of the group's last strongholds in Libya. When the Libyan forces Al-Bunyan al-Marsus finally retook the coastal city in December last year, the children were rescued and taken here to Misrata, 250 kilometers away. Most of them had wounds and needed treatment. Some had lost limbs. One baby was only 5 days old. Red Crescent staff say identifying where the children's families originated from is proving difficult.
Many of these children have Egyptian parents. We've tried to contact Egyptian authorities, but they haven't responded yet, nor cooperated with us. Also, Tunisia and the other countries have not cooperated with us either. Our government officially contacted those countries, but there's been no answer yet.
Those children whose parents were Libyan have been resettled with relatives. But others from African countries, including Egypt, Ghana, and Sudan, remain at the center.
These children would appear to get along with everybody here, and they seem happy. But what many of them desperately need is help to recover from the trauma they experienced during the war.
In the final battle for Sirte, Libyan forces rescued dozens of women and children. But they paid a heavy price, with many members either killed or wounded.
In one of the rescue operations, a team member was trying to save a woman and her child in the middle of the fighting. Then an ISIL fighter blew himself up and our man lost his legs in that operation. We rescue the women and children because that's what our conscience dictates to us, no matter who they are.
Sometimes the two sides were only meters apart. And in several cases, it was ISIL women who blew themselves up when they were about to be rescued. Some of these children may never know who their parents were or where they came from. There are governments that could help identify them but may choose not to.
Humanitarian organizations have repeatedly warned that children traveling along migration routes face exceptionally high risk of exploitation. Some travel with family members, others travel completely alone. Some become separated from their parents during dangerous crossings. Some have already fled war before beginning the journey. Imagine that. A child survives conflict, survives the Sahara Desert, survives traffickers, and then carries those memories for the rest of their life. No child should ever have to experience that. Children are not immigration statistics. They are not political talking points. They are children. They deserve safety. They deserve protection. They deserve hope. Now let's answer another question that many people ask. Why don't migrants simply stay in their own countries? It's a reasonable question. But the answer isn't simple. People have migrated throughout human history. Some moved because of war, some moved because of persecution, some because of famine, some because they see no future where they are. Others live because they want to provide a better life for their children. That doesn't mean every decision is wise. It doesn't mean every journey is safe, but it does remind us that every statistic is a human story. It's a parent, a son, a daughter, someone hoping tomorrow will be better than today. Unfortunately, traffickers exploit that hope. So, we've talked about the problem. What needs to happen? How do we confront a crisis like this? The answer begins with accountability. Those responsible for trafficking, torture, forced labor, sexual violence, and other serious crimes must be investigated and, where sufficient evidence exists, brought to justice. Not because revenge is the answer, but because justice protects future victims. Criminal networks survive when they believe no one will stop them. They grow when victims remain silent. They expand when corruption shields them from consequences. Justice sends a powerful message. Human beings are not commodities. People are not products. Freedom is not for sale. No one should profit from another man's suffering. Justice alone is not enough, though. Survivors need protection also. A person escaping trafficking doesn't simply need transport home. They need medical care. They need psychological support. They need safe accommodation, legal assistance, education, employment opportunities, and they need time to heal. Because surviving captivity and recovering from it are two different things. A person may escape a prison, yet they still carry that prison in their minds for years. That's why humanitarian organizations continue providing long-term support to survivors. Healing is a journey, and no one should have to walk it alone. Perhaps the most important lesson from tonight's investigation is this. The best way to fight trafficking is to prevent people from becoming vulnerable in the first place. When young people have access to education, traffickers lose opportunities. When families have stable incomes, false promises become less attractive. When communities are secure, fewer people feel forced to risk everything. When governments are stable and the rule of law is strong, criminal networks find it much harder to operate. Hope is one of the greatest enemies of exploitation. I'll take it again. Hope is one of the greatest enemies of exploitation because traffickers prey on despair. So what can we do? At this point, some of you may be thinking, Cleopatra, this has been heartbreaking to watch. But what can ordinary people actually do? The truth is, you can actually do more than you might imagine. First, educate yourself. Learn how trafficking works. Understand the warning signs. Help others to recognize them too. Knowledge can prevent exploitation before it begins. Secondly, support organizations doing incredible work with survivors. Many humanitarian organizations provide emergency assistance, medical care, counseling, and safe return programs for people escaping trafficking. Thirdly, use your voice responsibly, like this show is doing. Don't spread rumors. Don't circulate unverified videos or sensational claims. Share facts, share evidence like we've just done. Because misinformation distracts from the real victims. Finally, never lose your compassion. It's easy to become overwhelmed by stories like this. It's easy to become numb. But please, don't. Don't be numb. Every person deserves to be seen as a human being, not a headline, not a statistic, not a political argument. So my royals, before we close tonight, I want to speak directly to anyone watching who has survived trafficking, exploitation, or abuse. If that's you, please hear me. What happened to you does not define you. Your value was never determined by what someone did to you. Your dignity was never taken away. People may have tried to reduce you to a commodity, but they failed. You are still created in the image of God. You are worthy of love. You are worthy of justice. You are worthy of healing. And your story matters. And if you would like to share the story with me, please connect with me. Send me an email at empowerlifewithcleopatra@gmail.com. empowerlifewithcleopatra@gmail.com.
My royals, my beautiful royals. So I am going to respond to all your messages because I've had a lot of messages and everything. So I am going to respond to them. I want to thank you first of all for being with me, for joining, and I'm going to just first of all start from the very first or second comment from Robin. Robin says, "I'm afraid the previous interview was wrong to suppose what would have happened if they were US citizens. The elite in that country are probably the source of all that money." Yeah, you're right, because the clip you were talking about was the clip where a lady was saying that all this is that are happening, it's because they are all Black people, and that's why no one is doing anything about it. And that if those people were white or Caucasians, the countries of those people would actually come in there and take those, their people away. And we know that that happens all the time anyway. Like if there are problems in any particular country and all that, but the embassy of that country or the High Commission would come and just, take their citizens away. But unfortunately, in Africa, that doesn't seem to happen very much. I mean, it's starting to happen a little bit, because I know that where this problem with South Africa started and everything, I know Nigeria, for instance, airlifted quite a lot of Nigerian citizens over there back home. But it's not something that they do as often as they should do. But Robin, you did say you were just thinking about the Trump Epstein files and all the poor women and kids imported, in quotes, from all countries. Yeah, I did respond to you and I said you have a point. But what now? Now that the world is aware of these files, what has been done about it? And you responded and you said, done about it. He's up to his neck in it. You just heard today that one of the other trafficker friends of his unalived this week in France of an unexpected heart attack just before being arrested. Well, what can I say? My royals, these things are happening. Nicole, good evening. Mr. Solomon, thank you for joining. Maureen, Riri, everybody that has joined. The advocates, Stop the Evil, everyone that has joined. Riri, everyone that has joined. Thank you. Ryan, thank you so much. And Nicole, Riri, you're saying, how can people be prevented from being vulnerable, as vulnerability in that instance was unpredictable? How can people be prevented from you cannot help it. They are vulnerable because of where they find themselves, and there's no one is showing them a lifeline. So they are there. And as we speak, I'm not just saying something that happened 2 years ago. It's happening right this very second as we speak. It's happening right now, guys. It's happening right now. So I don't know. I mean, we are shining the light on this because people only take it serious when it's at their doorstep. It's like when all this kidnapping has been going on in Africa, especially in Nigeria, and this, commissioners and presidents and all these people, they're not doing anything about it until when their own relative is kidnapped. That's when you see them all coming out. Oh my goodness! Oh, this cannot happen and all that, because they, somebody that's close to them has been affected. But I don't know what we're talking about it. And we hope that now that more and more people will talk about it, we hope that something will be done, because Libyan authorities have to be questioned. Why they're allowing this sort of atrocity to continue. Why? They have to be questioned. Things have to take place. People have to do something about this. I know that United Nations have condemned it. The very first video that I played, if you joined late, please go back and watch it from the beginning. The UN Secretary General said they were condemning all this. People have to be brought to justice and all that, and they're condemning everything. But that's not stopped what's happening. It's still happening right now as we speak. Okay, it's still happening. Ryan says, and thank you very much for your comment as well, says it's been a very moving topic and show. Thanks for bringing it bringing to light the issue. Thank you, Ryan. I hope it's not just about talking it, that somebody who is in a position of authority or influence that can make a change will actually run with this and do something about it. If I had the money, if I had the authority, if I had, all the wherewithals to be able to change things physically, financially, and in my own way, I would. But this is the only way I feel I can help to change it, and that's why I am talking about it. It's a very painful thing. I mean, when I was researching this documentary and playing these videos and just I was, there were times I had to stop and just breathe, like tears, like it was so painful to see. That can be somebody's brother, sister, your brother, your sister, your relative, your mother, your babies that are being affected like this. We cannot allow it to continue. And in your own little way, if there is any way you can also shed your light on this and make it known, please, if more people are talking about it, then the Libyan authorities will take it serious and not allow this to continue. I'm not saying the whole of Libya is bad, but the authorities are aware of what's going on. And like I said in the video, this is not just one person. There are so many networks. And I hate to say it, even the authorities are aware and they're involved because money is changing hands in different factions, in different places. All right, from the immigration to the trafficker to those who are in the transportation system, to those who are at the checkpoints, to those who are actually, like, it's a whole syndicate, a network. Please go back and watch the video if you didn't see it from the beginning. It's a whole syndicate and everybody is aware. And because money is involved, because there's kidnappings, even the detainees themselves are being kidnapped and they're sending money. They're asking the family to send money. And because money is exchanging hands, nobody's doing anything about it because they're getting money. Selling your soul to the devil because of money. That's literally what they're doing. And you said, Ryan, you said, I agree with the comment about your outfit. You look good, Queen Cleopatra. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you. And Ryan says, no need to post the last comment about the, oh, sorry. It's too late. I posted it already. Sorry about that. I was just trying to go through all the comments. But seriously, though, guys, this is where we are. This is where we are. And I had to bring it to everyone's attention. So I'm not going to take too long. I just want to say thank you to everyone for your comments, for your thoughts. Thank you for joining me tonight. And I'm just going to say just play the last bit of the video to say good night, and then we will close the show. Thank you so much. Please, like I say, go back and watch this video, share it with everybody that you know, subscribe, like, comment. Yeah, we're still trying to grow this channel. This channel is not grown at all. I have sleepless nights. I have not slept for days because of this documentary. I take my time to make sure I give the best content ever. The least anybody can do is just to please help me to share it. And subscription is free. Nobody's paying for it. It's free. I actually have a community that you can subscribe to and you will pay to join. I haven't even talked about that because I just want people to join first. It's not about the money. It's about the awareness. It's about empowering people. It's about making a difference. So please just help me to share and everything. So thank you so much.
I would love to have you on the show to share your story, because your courage has already helped countless others understand the reality of trafficking. So thank you for refusing to let your voice be silenced. My royals, tonight we've traveled through one of the darkest chapters of modern human history. We've heard about trafficking, forced labor, sexual violence, torture, extortion, families held hostage by ransom demands, dreams stolen, lives shattered. But I don't want us to leave here tonight feeling hopeless, because darkness is never the whole story. For every trafficker, there are investigators exposing them. For every criminal network, there are humanitarian workers risking their lives to rescue victims. For every person who exploits, there is someone choosing compassion. Humanity is not defined only by the evil that exists. It's also defined by the courage of those who refuse to surrender to it. The Bible tells us in the book of Proverbs chapter 31 verse 8, it says, speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves. Ensure justice for those being crushed. That isn't simply a beautiful verse. It is a call to action. Silence has consequences. When we ignore suffering, suffering grows. When we look away, evil becomes bolder. When ordinary people shine a light on injustice, darkness begins to lose its power. History has repeatedly shown us that some of the world's greatest injustices continued, not because everyone supported them, but because too many people looked the other way. My royals, let's refuse to look the other way. Let's refuse to become indifferent. Let's refuse to forget the people whose names we may never know, but whose lives mattered just as much as ours. Because freedom is not a privilege, it is a fundamental human right. And every single human life is priceless. So, my royals, if tonight's investigation has challenged you, please don't let it end here. Share this program, because someone you know might learn something that changes how they see this issue forever. Please subscribe to Empower Life with Cleopatra if you haven't already done so. Every week, we come up with different topics on this show, but the conversation has just one goal. Empower Life with Cleopatra, we aim to educate, to empower, and to pursue truth. And I'd also love to hear from you. Which part of tonight's investigation affected you the most? What other global issues would you like us to investigate together? Leave your thoughts in the comments or send me an email, like I said earlier, to empowerlifewithcleopatra@gmail.com. Let's continue the conversation respectfully and constructively. Thank you once again for spending your evening with me. Tonight wasn't an easy conversation, but some conversations are too important to ignore. And as long as people are still being exploited, as long as injustice continues, as long as there are voices waiting to be heard, we will continue shining a light where others choose darkness. I'm Cleopatra, and this is Empower Life with Cleopatra, where we don't simply talk about the world, we challenge ourselves to make it better. Until next time, stay bold, stay kind, and most importantly, stay empowered and never stop seeking the truth, okay? God bless you. I love you very much. Bye for now.
Empower life with Cleopatra. Awaken the best version of you. Unlock your true potential. Empower your mind, body, and soul. Live with intentions, live with a purpose. Empower your dreams, make it happen today. No matter your age, rise and shine. Live boldly, live authentically. It's your time to rise and shine. Empower life with Cleopatra. Awaken the best version of you. Your journey starts today. You've got one life to live. Love yourself, be kind to others, break free and let your spirit soar. Empower life with Cleopatra will help you awaken the best version of you.